On the line with us is the Vice President of Media Matters, Julie Millican, MediaMatters.org, of course, the website. MMFA is their Twitter handle, or I guess it's an X handle these days. That sounds strange, too, doesn't it? X. In any case, is Fox News an unindicted co-conspirator in Donald Trump's crimes? And, what's up with all this? Julie, welcome to the program. This op-ed or this piece that was published over at Media Matters about how the Fox News lineup, Laura Ingraham denouncing the target letter against Donald Trump, Jesse Waters urging Kevin McCarthy to stop Jack Smith by defunding him, Sean Hannity talking about, bringing Trump on the air and letting him spew more lies. Is Fox an unindicted co-conspirator?
Well, Fox certainly helped pave the way for Trump to be able to be successful in advancing the big lie. If it weren't for Fox and their amplification of Trump's election lies immediately following the election to present, frankly, I don't think we would have ended up with January 6th. I don't think Trump would have been as successful in being able to dig his heels in around this. And we've seen a lot of, negative consequences because of it. The reality is Fox knew that these were lies that they were pushing. They still continued to push them regardless. They pushed election lies over 800 times just in a couple weeks after the election. And were it not for that megaphone, we may not have seen, the type of actions that we saw on January 6th. We may not have, these investigations may not be happening. So, Fox certainly has a certain culpability in their role that they played.
Do you think that they will encounter any legal liability for this?
So what we've seen with Fox is that they have had some accountability in the forms of defamation lawsuits brought on by companies who, Fox had told lies about regarding Dominion lawsuit, or Dominion Election Service, for instance. And they had a record-breaking settlement that they had to agree to in order to make that lawsuit go away. They're currently staring down another one about claims that they made, false claims that they advanced or allowed advanced on their airs around a different election company, a smaller one named Smartmatic, which Fox repeatedly lied about on air or allowed Trump surrogates to lie about on air, advancing all sorts of conspiracy theories about this company's elections machines and their ability to change votes and this having some sort of widespread impact on the election. It was very blatant lies. So that case is still ongoing. I would imagine if the Dominion case settled, that this case would probably see some sort of accountability for Fox as well. Outside of that, though, that tends to be where you see the legal activity happening right now is around defamation lawsuits and trying to hit Fox at their bottom line.
Well, Julie, we back, I think it was around 15 years ago, we had a couple of reporters on this program from down in Florida. Now, this wasn't Fox News, but it was a Fox-owned television station. And they had been asked to do a story on RGBH, the recombinant bovine growth hormone, and whether or not it was safe. And the management of this Fox station required them to rewrite the story over 20 times, each time making it more and more like the Monsanto official line. Everything's good here, there's no droids in this car. Until ultimately they just couldn't do it and said, we're just not going to air this story because you're asking us to lie. Fox fired them. They sued for unlawful termination. They won before a jury of their peers and were awarded $250,000 in compensation. Fox then appealed that to the state appeals court, or to the, I don't recall if it was the appeals or the Supreme Court in Florida. And the appeals court said, no, Fox has the right to tell their employees to lie. It's their constitutional right. There's no law against lying to people unless you're under oath or you're talking to the FBI. How does that sort of precedent, what does that imply for lies that Fox is telling about elections that aren't specific to companies like Smartmatic or Dominion that might sue?
Yeah, and want to preface everything by saying I'm not a legal expert myself, but what I could say is from what you just described, that doesn't bode well for the ability to hold Fox accountable for telling lies in the legal realm outside of, as we discussed, these defamation lawsuits. I think where you have to try to hold Fox more accountable is how it impacts their profits and impacts their bottom line. As we've seen, that is what they care about. That is the reason why they advanced these lies in the first place. Just to go back to 2020 for a second, following the network announcing that Joe Biden had essentially won the election by calling Arizona for him, being the first network to do so, Trump was outraged. He went ballistic on the network for doing this. His team went, really hard after Fox, both publicly and behind the scenes. And Trump supporters, Fox viewers, abandoned the network, and Fox started panicking. They saw that they were losing their audience. Their audience were going to even more extreme networks like Newsmax or OAN, and they were desperate to get them back. So they began to wholeheartedly embrace this idea that there was, election fraud, widespread fraud, there was, cheating, that there was all sorts of things that negative, impacted the 2020 election to give Biden an illegitimate victory that he didn't deserve. So I think the thing that you have to kind of keep in mind for Fox is that they're profit driven more so than anything. And so if we're not going to be able to hold them legally accountable for being a propaganda network that spreads a lot of lies, there are other ways that people can try to have some sort of impact to try to change Fox's behavior. And that is, kind of going after doing advertiser education efforts, or doing things like trying to apply pressure in where their biggest moneymaker is right now, and that's with carriage fees that they get from cable providers to air their network. And there's ways that people can get involved.
Well, let's talk about that. By the way, the Fox, if you want more information on the story I was telling you, the reporters were named Jane Aker and Steve Wilson, and it's a married couple. And if you just Google Fox RGBH lawsuit, it'll pop right up. There was a lot of coverage at the time, but like I said, this was 15 years ago, I think, as I recall. So there's this website, nofoxfee.com, tips on how to send a polite message to your provider. Tell us about this. What is a carriage fee? How does this, what does this mean to Fox? And what can we do about it?
So I'll start with what a carriage fee is. So a carriage fee is the money that a network makes or gets from cable providers or satellite providers in order to air their programs. Some people get nothing, like Newsmax, for instance. But other people like Fox News get quite a bit of money. They are one of the top networks that get the highest fees from these cable companies. These fees then get passed on to consumers in the form of higher bills. Each cable and satellite company does their own negotiations with Fox around fees that they're willing to pay. These negotiations, their contracts last about 3 years. They're up for renewal every 3 years, and it is like Fox's dirty secret is where they get the vast majority of their revenues. Over $1 billion come from their cable fees, these carriage fees. It's about 70% of their revenue. Right now, Fox has been bleeding advertisers for years due to advertisers not wanting to have their content supporting and airing alongside of like Tucker Carlson monologues, for example, Bill O'Reilly back in the day, but just the extremist, like hateful content that's on Fox has kind of pushed most advertisers to the sidelines, but Fox still can remain profitable because of these carriage fees. So what No Fox Fee is all about is trying to talk to your cable and satellite provider and tell them, hey, like we know that Fox is in negotiations right now. We do not want to be subsidizing the hate on this network. Do not agree to these increased rates that will increase my bill. Right now, we know that Fox is in negotiations with major providers. Most of their contracts are up for renewal this year and next. and they are currently negotiating with Comcast, Xfinity, Charter, and then Spectrum, Cox Communications. So all of those networks right now, or cable providers right now, are in negotiations with Fox. And Fox is demanding massive increases in the fees that they're trying to get from these providers. They're looking to increase them upwards of 50%. It's pretty wild given where Fox is at right now. And it's also interesting because this is a unique opportunity for people to act. Fox is actually really vulnerable. They're coming off of this Dominion lawsuit where they just had to settle for hundreds of millions of dollars. They're attempting to recoup the losses through these contract negotiations, but they also have lost their audience. Again, they're not producing the same audience size that they have in the past that they've been able to use to extract these exorbitant fees out of providers. They just don't have that anymore.
Right.
And at the same time, cable companies are dealing with the fact that more and more and more people are cutting the cord completely.
Right.
So they have an incentive not to be raising people's rates, and they have an incentive to be pushing back on Fox much harder than they have in the past.
So Julie, forgive the interruption, but we're going to hit a hard break in 30 seconds, and I won't be able to stop it. So what can people do? What people can do, I would say just go to nofoxfee.com. We give instructions, information on how to contact your providers and tell them no. Say no to the Fox fee, push back on Fox, and these negotiations do not agree to a rate increase. All of the information you can find is right there, and it's a way that everybody can get involved to really hit Fox where it hurts. No.
The more people that contact, the better.
Right, nofoxfee.com is the website.
That's right.
Right, nofoxfee.com. This is absolutely great. Julie, thanks so much. Julie Millican, the Vice President of Media Matters, MediaMatters.org. Julie, thanks so much for dropping by today and talking with us.